What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Lean and Lionhearted podcast. I am your host, AJ Quimson, IFBB Pro, and I'm here with my good friend, Ant Trang, owner of Cave Fitness?
Movement.
Cave Movement. My bad.
No, you're good. No, you're fine.
What's up, man? How are you?
How you doing, brother? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Man. I thought that you would be a great person to have on here just because, you know, this podcast is centered around fitness and, you know, how people integrate it into their lives and having a healthy body. And my expertise is in losing fat and building muscle, but I think a problem that a lot of people have is tightness, imbalances, you know, poor posture, tight hips, different things like that restrict them, and then it ends up causing them some pain later on down the line, and they're not sure why they have pain. And that is kind of your wheelhouse, is it not?
A little bit. It's one of my wheelhouses. Yeah.
Okay, just
Jack
one.
of all trades, master of none.
My bad. So you're pretty good at everything.
Nah. Yeah, we'll chop it up for sure.
Yeah. So, just to start, man, like I wanted to see, like, people say that they have tight muscles and things hurt, right? So, like, what exactly is a tight muscle? Like, what's happening to the muscle there?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different factors, right, AJ? Like, you know, where there's a muscle strain, an actual injury, is there inflammation in there, right? So it depends on what that person is doing. So it could be like somebody that sits at a desk all day, they're like, hey, I have a tight muscle in my neck and shoulders. It might be just from that sedentary lifestyle. Whereas like when you were playing football and rugby, you could have came up to me like, yo, I have tight shoulders and neck. You're probably like pushing a 300-pound guy back in the scrum, you know? So it all depends on the situation, why that person's coming, like how long have they been having that tight muscles? You know, what movements have they been doing? Are they doing something new or different than what they're used to? How are they sleeping? So the tight muscle can be anything from an injury, muscle adhesion, strain in the muscle, inflammation, or just sedentary lifestyle, or the lifestyle that they have, or the movements that they're constantly doing every day. So, you know, when somebody comes up to me and say, hey, I'm feeling tightness here, my first question is like, hey, what have you been doing that's new? You know, what sports did you play? You know, what have you transitioned from sport to sport? Like, what does that look like? I mean, so, yeah.
Okay, so it could be a number of things. So, like, what exactly would be... Let's start with something that most people probably experience these days, right? Like you sit at a desk, what muscles would typically get tight for that person?
Yeah, so at a desk, like neck, traps, forearms, because they're typing. A lot of people, I see a lot of like wrist, tension in the wrist, low back, mid back issues, and then hip issues, right? So it just depends on like how they sit. Some people, you know, we live in a world now that's all remote, what do you call it? Work, remote, where people work from home. So, you know, not everybody has an ergonomic person that comes in and teaches them how to set up their desk or set up their computer, or the positioning. So some people might have like 3 monitors or 2 monitors, you know, and they're constantly on their main monitor. So they're constantly like turning their head towards that main monitor. So the tightness could be just that constant tension of that muscle pulling their head that way, right? So they come in there like, hey, I have tightness here. You feel it. You're like, oh, that's tight. But it also mean this muscle's weak. Does that make sense? So tightness can also be from here too, because that muscle's weak. It doesn't do enough of this.
Okay.
Right. And I'll probably confuse everybody, but you know, when a muscle is lengthened for such a long period of time, that could also include and be labeled as tightness.
Okay. Yeah. So as an example, Correct. It would probably be like if I'm sitting down at a desk and my shoulders are rolled forward and my scapula or my shoulder blades are spread apart. So they're always stretched. And then that's when people feel that tightness in their back and they feel like they need massage.
Yeah, the lengthen. So you can work that out as much as you want, but you know, I would send them to a trainer like you and say, hey, this client needs more, you know, mid to lower trap exercises, a little bit more serratus anterior exercises to pull that shoulder blade back, right? So there's better functionality because the muscle can only understand the range that it's introduced to it. So if this is all it knows all day, everything feels tight in this position, right? Everything going to this position will feel tight because it doesn't feel natural, right? So somebody like you would teach the client all ranges of motion, right? So we know that there's transverse, rotational, you know, frontal, and sagittal planes of motion, right? So we live mostly in the sagittal plane of motion. We never go like in the frontal plane or transverse plane enough, right? So let's just say like, for instance, going back to the desk thing, we're sitting here for 8 to 10 hours looking at this screen in the sagittal plane. Then I'm like, man, I'm gonna go play pickleball, right? Which is like a little bit of frontal plane, a little bit of transverse plane. And you're like, oh shit, let me do this. You're tight for so long in this position, right? Anything experienced in the different types of plane, your body goes, oh shit, doesn't feel good. So the neurologically goes, oh, let me not move in that position to prevent injury. It doesn't know. So then somebody will come to me and they'll be like, yo, Ant, like I worked out with AJ. I pulled my back deadlifting, or I play pickleball. I got injured, reaching for the ball or something like that. I'm like, no, like how are you sleeping? How are you, sitting? How are you living your day-to-day activities, right?
Yeah. So like for everyone at home, sagittal would be like front and back.
Yeah, front and back.
And then frontal would be like going side to
side,
side. And then transverse is like rotational. So
correct.
like if you're swinging like a baseball bat or something like that.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is like if you're doing something that is outside of your normal range, that's what usually you call it like guarding, right?
Yeah,
like,
guarding, yeah.
Your body is trying to protect you from being in a range that you're not used to, which is why people feel a little bit weird when they start doing new things.
For
and they
sure.
think it's bad for them.
Yeah.
So like, I guess how would you recommend introducing like a new movement, right? So like, let's say I'm working out, I work at a desk all the time. Obviously my range of motion is very limited because I don't do a whole lot.
Correct.
And then I wanted to start playing, let's say, pickleball, because pickleball is popular right now, right? So like, how would you go about that to avoid, that quote unquote injury or that kind of guarding?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like starting to move into a different like sport or recreation that you're not normally used to, I say like if you break it down to 3 things, or at least I do it. So many practitioners and therapists do it so many different ways. I always look at feet or ankle, right? Ankle, feet, hip, and shoulder. If I look at it in those 3, if I mobilize those in all the 3 ranges of motion that we were talking about, like transverse plane, frontal plane, and sagittal plane, if I just warm up in just 2 to 3 exercises per those, then they have that. You kind of wake up the body to say, hey, this is what this feeling feels like, right? Yeah. This is what this feeling feels like, right? Even if it's just 20 to 30 reps just to prime the muscle up with some like mobility work there, it allows your brain to say, hey, this feels safe, right? Even as simple as like a mom driving and then she has to reach back to grab something for her kid. If she's never experienced that, she can get injured too, right? Little things like that. So to transition, imagine that's just picking up something from the kid, right? Or somebody bending over to tie their shoes to throw out their back because they never experienced that range. Now, imagine if we played a sport, all of a sudden you're taking this static position or like sedentary position into a very dynamic or ballistic movement and you don't prep for it, that's where the injury occurs. So just be mindful, right? Like, okay, cool. How I do is I go, did I do my frontal plane warm up? Did I do my transverse plane warm up? And did I do my sagittal plane warm up? And if I get all those in, then I start feeling good and moving through the motions. So like something like pickleball, it's a lot of lateral movement, right? So I would just focus a lot more on that lateral movement. Maybe some rotation because you got to kind of reach back. If you reach back for the ball, I don't really know, but I'm just like guessing those movements. But a lot of it is like that lateral movement. People go, man, my shins are tight or my ankle feels tight after pickleball. Like, yeah, dude, like you didn't warm up, It's like taking a nice Porsche and just, not warming the tires or whatever and just trying to go for like 0 to 100.
Yeah. So, okay. So like, so basically you would want to go through some of the movements in a slow capacity.
Correct.
As opposed to like, because I think what a lot of people do when they warm up is that, maybe they jog a little bit, which is still just going forward and back, or they do like, high knees or like butt kickers, but all of that's going front and back. So what you're saying is like, maybe do like ankle circles or, shuffle side to side laterally. Yeah,
some bands, shuffle side to side, get a medicine ball, maybe rotate throws, rotational throws is good. Anything that's going to challenge you to move differently than you normally. So you got to kind of think out either outside the box or ask the trainer like yourself, be like, hey, how can I warm up? I'm feeling stiffness this way. Like I know you're super hella knowledgeable, like just getting all these athletic movement warm-ups in with your clients, whether we bounce ideas off each other or you do it for yourself because you've been in the sport, you understand. And then dealing with some of your own injuries, like you're like, okay, cool. And now I know what I need to do for myself too.
Yeah. I think unfortunately for most people, they don't figure out that it's a problem. Well, this is just stuff that's not really like talked about that much. Even when I was playing sports, right? Like nobody told me any of these things.
Yeah, it's not sexy, like nobody's gonna sit for 30 minutes to mobilize. Like, oh, I just want to sweat, break a muscle or break up a sweat. And,
or like even just knowing what's happening. Like I didn't know, like when I was playing football, you get a stinger or something like that, or your muscle starts guarding because you hit something a little bit harder than you normally would, or your quads are tight because you've been doing whatever and you've been running, or your hamstrings. And like, to me, I would just think, ow, that hurts. And I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about it. But I'm also young to where it doesn't matter, right? I'm
you
just
wake
gonna
up
push
the next
through
day
it.
and you're
Yeah,
good.
like I'm fine. And then all of a sudden I get a little bit older, right? And then I'm playing rugby in college.
Yeah.
So nobody still told me anything, and we were
Not
we
even
had-
the athletic room. Like, you guys didn't have like an athletic training room or like a rehab room or like a.
We did, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So like we had trainers and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I mean, I didn't utilize that stuff as much as I probably should have. I mean, I would come in to get my ankle taped because I had sprained my ankle a bunch of times. But outside of that, like, I learned what tight muscles were and like self-myofascial release and stuff like that on my own. And then I would bring it there. And so like the first time that I got cupped was there because I was having really bad patella tendonitis. And yeah, it was
From rugby.
It was horrible, bro. Like, it was horrible.
What were like some of your symptoms that you were having?
Basically just like the tendon, right underneath my kneecap, it would feel like it's going to explode anytime I did anything. So I mean, imagine we're in the weight room and I'm supposed to be lifting weights and getting strong and stuff, and I can barely squat maybe 185 pounds. Like, I couldn't even get to parallel because I felt like my knee was going to explode. And I was like, wow, I bet they think I'm a pussy right now.
So what did, like, at that point, right, as an athlete, like, you're at top tier of your game and you have small injury like that, did you want to not say anything about it, or did it hinder you to be like, hey, I got an injury, guys? Or did you try to push through it, or like, how did you feel at the time mentally?
I mean, at the time, it was just like, one, I didn't know what was wrong. I knew that it hurt, but no one really tells you what to do. So I was just be like, hey, my knee hurts, And so no one's really telling you what's going on. And, later on, I learned that, tendonitis and things like that is just two opposite sides of the tendon, like, pulling on each other and like
scary though.
Yeah. I mean, so I didn't know what was really going on. So until I would go there, I would say my knee hurts, and then they'd be like, go foam roll or something like that, which is horrible the first time you foam roll. So I'm foam rolling and I'm like, dude, this doesn't help at all, bro. Like, but they didn't really tell me how long it was going to take to feel better. But it was one of those things where what I was doing to necessarily, I mean, not injure it, but like put myself in that position to where it does hurt. Like, I couldn't stop doing those things, but I also couldn't do enough of the foam rolling to make it any better. So it was like, I didn't have the knowledge. And also, when I was given something, I wasn't really told why it was important, how long it was going to take. So there was no real expectation on what I was supposed to do for that. And then I just kind of gave up and I was like, whatever, it is what it is.
For sure. And that's a common issue I kind of see right now in the field, kind of segue, but we'll come back to. It's just, there's so many, like, you go in the athletic training room, there's athletic trainers looking at the injuries that you had right then and there. But they also have 50 other guys they have to look at and make sure like everybody's healthy, right? So they trickle in enough with you to say, hey, do this, this, and this. But then they got to go to, like, Omar, Age, the other guys, So the issue is everybody needs to work together, right? Right now, the common issue I see is like, oh, well, I'm a chiropractor. Don't even listen to the massage therapist. I'm a massage therapist. Don't listen to the trainer. I'm a trainer. Don't listen to the PT says. But why don't we all work together to make sure that one athlete works at the premium of their capability, the best performance, peak performance, right? So that is an issue I see. So
I think for a lot of people, it's the expectation. So just like within fitness, right? If you have bad expectations on what you think is going to happen, you think you're going to lose 5 pounds a week every week, you're going to be disappointed with the speed of your success.
Speed of it,
Yeah, And so, like, if you're expecting to lose 5 pounds and you only lose 3, you're going to be disappointed, but 3 pounds is pretty good. But at the same time, when you're doing mobility or rehab, things like that, as people find out, like, a chiropractor will tell you got to come here like once a week or twice a week for 6 months. And you're like, dude, that's fucking forever. And then all of a sudden, like, nothing's happening. But it's also because if you're going to the chiropractor, if the muscles are still tight, it keeps pulling it back into the same spot.
1000%.
So then you have to go to the chiropractor forever. But
that's where the honesty comes in, right? The honest that we have as practitioners, therapists, we have to be honest with our clients, right? I don't know shit. Like, yo, if I don't know that shit and that aspect of it, like, let me find somebody that does. That's gonna match you better for the situation,
Yeah.
Right. You know. So.
Yeah, but I just think a lot of people shy away from getting body work or from going to like a practitioner or whatever because they've had the bad experience or they're like, is this really gonna work?
For sure.
And I think a lot of it comes from just not understanding how is this helping me and how long is this gonna take and like what is it really gonna take?
Yeah.
And yeah, I've noticed, I mean, even in myself, like I don't want to go to a chiropractor or like I'm very skeptical of going to somebody for body work because I'm like, are you really going to do something? Or are you just going to like dig your elbow into me and make it hurt? And then, and so I think something's happening.
Yeah.
Because there's
placebo too. There's a placebo to it too, right?
Yeah. So there's like people that don't really do anything except rub your back. Which is, I mean, to me, it's like, cool.
But that's okay too, right?
I might fall asleep.
For that.
If that's what you want. If I'm trying to get someone to fix me, I know it's gonna hurt a little bit.
Yeah, that term fix, right, is so tricky, right? I don't tell people like, oh, I can't fix you, right? But we can take that stepping stone to the next phase or whatever that journey looks like, right?
Yeah.
Like I used it a lot. Oh, let me fix that. Let me tune. But now it's just like, hey, it's just I'm a one tune up, right, away from whatever you need to, you know. I'm a tune up to unlock whatever. Like, oh, maybe it is a skeletal issue, right? Maybe it is a neurological issue. I can only do so much. So like I used to be like, yo, I got you. Like, let me take care of it. Then I realized, damn, I don't have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I need a chiro. I need an osteopath. I need an acupuncturist. I need a nutritionist. I need a trainer, right? To actually like work on some of these things. And the fix becomes that, right? Whatever that whole holistic health tribe looks like.
Yeah. All right. So bringing this back, right?
Yeah, bring it back. Yeah.
What do you feel? What have you noticed is the most common problems that manifest from working at a desk all day? So what would the symptoms be that someone would feel?
First thing first, right? Neutral spine. So if we were to sit here, neutral spine, and anything deviated from that neutral spine is detrimental to just your body's balance, right? So you're here.
What is neutral spine?
So neutral spine is everything's like kind of stacked on top of each other. So the head stacked on the shoulder, stacked on the mid back, stacked on the hip. If you're standing on the knee, the ankle, right? So the spine allows for a nice natural curvature from the head all the way down to the tailbone, right? So any like deviation, like a little bit of hunchback, right, curves out the thoracic spine, that's out of your neutral spine. Anything shift like scoliosis, whether it's functional or structural, you know, you have either the C curve or S curve, and we'll talk about that. Or I can bring in a chiropractor to talk about that. Is deviated from that neutral spine, right? With the neutral spine where it is, the muscles feel balanced. Muscles only pull in the body, they don't push, right? I learned that from my massage therapy teacher. Like they only pull, meaning like if there's tightness here, the muscles pull here. If there's tightness back there, the muscles pull back. So neutral spine allows for balance of both muscles playing that tug of war, you know, the concept of the tug of war in your body. So somebody that's sitting at a desk, their chest will get tight because the shoulders will roll forward. Their lats will get tight because that shoulder rolls forward. The traps come forward. So that's tight in that sense, right? Head comes forward. Anytime your head comes forward, all the muscles in the back get tight. So they're like, somebody that gets off a desk, they're like, man, my neck is tight. You know, even your muscles in your eyes, right? You got muscles back there that move those eyeballs. They get tight too. So somebody at a desk, all those things like get like some kind of strain or irritability to it. So that's how like muscle knots or adhesions occur.
Okay, so most people that work at a desk will probably have really tight chests. Yeah. They're hunchbacked, and their traps, they're probably elevated from like typing and things like that. So they got tight traps, tight chest, but they probably feel it in their back,
in their lower back or like mid back. Yeah. So sometimes just in the neck too, right? Just like breathing too. Like sometimes when you're like somebody's getting like a CPA accountant, it's like typing, like doing all this paperwork. They forgot to take a breath, right? They go, like, how many times do you just sit there and you're like, take a deep breath in, just like, you know, just sighing, that sighing feeling, right? So when you do that, you work these muscles so much, you know, and then that also includes in the tightness of that too. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to like paint the picture, for people that are listening on audio because they can't see what you're doing. Okay. So you know, if their chest is tight, but their back hurts, then what do you recommend that they do, either functionally or mobility wise or stretching?
I would say get between a doorway, you know, find a doorway, you get your arms into like a 90 position, you lean forward, right? So you lean forward, open up the chest. One thing, you want to stretch out the chest. So remember, you want to open up what's tight and you want to strengthen what's weak. So the back side is weak, right? Because everything's lengthened on that side. So maybe get a couple back exercises, some bent over flies, some banded cable flies, anything that's going to strengthen the mid to lower back. That's going to help open it up. So stretch out the front, open up, strengthen the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for everyone, I'm going to try and describe this. When he says 90-90, it's like your bicep is in line with your shoulders.
Correct.
And you're sticking your hand up like you're saying hi to somebody.
Correct.
And you put it in the door, and then you basically lean forward so you can get that stretch in your chest.
Yes. You like a goalpost, like a football goalpost.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good.
And you just lean through like a door frame or like anything that you can put both arms on.
Yeah. And so that will give them some relief with feeling the tight back.
Yeah, it could be, right. Like that would give you open up the chest and open up open up at least that upper shoulder girdle, and then everything on the bottom you just strengthen.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So I was just listening to a post recently, and it's something I totally agree with. But if you ever noticed, the people that don't really know a whole lot say things in absolutes, like this does this, this will do this, this fixes this.
Oh, okay.
And people that are experts or more expert in their field, they'll use things that sound like kind of unsure, and it's like it depends, or sometimes this will do this, probably this will do this. And it's because there's so many possibilities. They don't want to give you the absolute and then have you be disappointed because it's, maybe it's taken out of context or something like that. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think I noticed that too.
Because you just did it. Because I said, will that fix your tight back? And you were like, it will help. Yeah. It's not an absolute. You're not saying like this will fix it, Yeah,
there's so many, again, back to the variable, there's so many different ways, right? It depends on what the person's actually going through, Yeah. That may feel good for a second, but if you have a weak muscle, you have a weak muscle. We got to figure out where that's coming from.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting because, I've always thought that, the people that are on Instagram, the ones that say things with the most confidence that like, this is the best way. Yeah. It's not true. There's, let's use fat loss, for example, right? There's a million different ways that you could do it.
You're about to fire some shots out, huh?
Well, there's basic principles that you would follow.
Correct.
Right? You need to be in a caloric deficit to be able to lose weight, meaning you need less calories than your body needs to maintain itself, right? And then a step up would be your macronutrient ratio, like depending on the weight that you're losing, are you losing more fat or losing more muscle? And then, it goes up from there. I forgot what episode it is, but you could look at it. But I talked about it. But when someone says this is the best way, it's a way.
Correct.
There's not like one best way to lose fat, other than if you're just talking about being in a caloric deficit, eating a significant amount of protein. Like that's kind of the basis of everything. But there's people that will say carnivore is the best, or keto is the best, or this is the best, and that's
the same people that jump from carnivore to vegan 2 years later when we watch our documentary.
Yeah, but they say it's the best, but they're taking all of this information out of context.
For sure.
And making it sound like it's the best because it works.
For them.
Yeah. But it doesn't work for everybody.
No.
And so like, it's just funny that the more you know, it's like, the more you know, the less you think you know. In the beginning,
1,000%.
I don't know if you were like this, but like when you first started doing body work on people, when you first got in the game, you're probably like, I know what I'm talking about. I know about the body, right?
Dude, yeah, it was so embarrassing looking back. It's like, oh man, like that's why I used to say I could fix you. Now I'm like, whoa, hold up, let me figure out what I can do as a stepping stone, right?
And I think it's especially true for guys, because guys will be like, I know how to work out.
Like,
How many girls have I talked to on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, wherever we're talking, like if they're interested in fitness, they're looking to get help, right? And they're like, oh, my coworker told me what to do. And I'm like, well, does your coworker knows what he's doing? Like there's all these people giving this advice, and they say it with such confidence because it's the only thing they know. But when you only know one way, you don't know whether it's right or wrong, or how right it is, or how wrong it is. For sure. Because it's the only thing you got.
It's ego, bro. It comes down to just ego, pride and ego that some of these trainers and other people have. We take that away, then like, do we really know that much? It's always a way to learn. Like that's why in my phone it's funny. Like he's saved in my phone as Obi-Wan Lionhearted. So it's like sometimes I don't even look up AJ, just because this is how we should be thinking, right? Not just in fitness, but in life. Like you got to be flex with
Yeah. So you said it's ego, right? Like when you first wanted to start doing body work and you know, that kind of stuff, right? Like, how did you, I guess, break through that ego of saying like, I know enough to ask that I need to do more? I mean, you probably needed a little bit. You probably knew that you needed some more education.
1,000%. Yeah.
But I guess when you first started, how did it feel ego wise? Like, how did you just like say, okay, I don't know that much?
Yeah, I mean, so a little bit of background about myself. I started off as a trainer, personal trainer, right? And I was like, damn, I do not know shit about nutrition. Like, if I can't put the burrito down, how am I going to tell somebody to put the burrito down, you know?
Facts.
Then I went into the strength and conditioning world because it's like, oh, numbers make so much more sense to me, right? Do some numbers. I know that if we go on this cycle of, you know, this training cycle, I know you're going to get to here. You're going to jump this high, you're going to run this fast, etc. And then I incorporated body work because some of my athletes just didn't do body work. They didn't care for it, right? They're trying to avoid it, but that's not going to get you where you need it to go, okay? So, you know, getting into the massage and the body work, I felt confident in the sense of like, oh, I know how this muscle work, right? There's an origin, there's an insertion, and there's a belly of the muscle, right? And then we knew that, hey, if this is tight, how do I open up this? So that gave me the confidence in that. But the ego, you know, was building, right? I'm like, oh, this feels good. I work with athletes, I feel good. Then I hit somebody with like scoliosis. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know much about that, right? Then I had somebody with a drop foot, right? Or a nerve issue, carpal tunnel. And I'm like, wow, I really don't know, right? Migraines, vertigo. I'm like, wow, there's just like so much more that's coming at me that's like outside of this athletic bubble that I was in. And the humility happened when I started including myself into conversations with other practitioners. Because everybody's a student here, right? If they want to start learning from you, then you get to share something. They start sharing something. So the ego went away when I started just learning and sharing, right?
And surrounding yourself with other people that knew
like-minded people, right? That cared not to be, you know, prideful or ego of what they have. They just want to have the conversation, right? And that's when the ego went away because you're like, I don't have to be somebody I'm not in front of people that actually are trying to grow, right? That's where the ego happens, when you're trying to be like, I'm somebody in this group of circle and trying to prove something in that group of circle. But when you have nothing to prove and you're just trying to grow together, the ego naturally goes away. It should. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just something's wrong with you, you know?
So surrounding yourself with other people that were on the same path but had different levels of expertise in different areas is what helped you.
1,000%.
So did you find it discouraging when you first realized like, damn, I don't really know that much? Or was it more motivating because you had these other people kind of helping you?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. So if I didn't have those people, it probably would have felt discouraging, but it motivated me to want to keep learning so I can be in the same conversations with them, right? So if I'm sitting at the same table with osteopath or a chiropractor or a physical therapist or an athletic trainer, I want to know the same lingo, the word, right? Be able to stick with the same conversation so I can take some of that info back to my clients, you know, share that with my clients or that world, you know? So it actually motivated me to be better or to learn more, to be able to be included in these conversations. So yeah, it's a huge driving factor for me, for sure.
Do you think if you didn't have those people to bounce ideas off of and you just felt like you were getting overwhelmed by these things that you didn't know, do you think that would have changed your path, like as far as being more motivated to learn more? Or
yeah, I think that's more of like a individual personality, right? Like if you want to know more, you're gonna learn more, right? Like your curiosity of wanting to be better, that has to come from within, you know?
Yeah, I'm saying for you.
Yeah. For me personally, yeah, for sure. If I didn't have any of those people, naturally I just would try to seek it, you know, as much as I can, because that's just who I am. Like I don't want to be stagnant in my way of thinking or my thought process of approaching something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Why do you think you're like that? Like, why do you think you like? They call it, you know, the Instagram gurus, they call that like growth mindset, right?
Oh, growth mindset. Man, the biggest thing, I was actually having a conversation with one of my boys about this, is like why am I in this phase of my life right now? I think the biggest thing, I kept asking all my homies, like, what's your biggest fear, right? And they were giving me different things. They asked me back, like, what's your biggest fear? I think I don't want to be stable. I want to shake the boat a little bit, because when you shake the boat and you get the instability, that's when you have to figure out ways to be stable, right? So in that instance, like, going back to your questions, I'm always trying to seek ways to get better, right? Internally, I think for myself, coming back is like my parents, you know, they wanted hey, you got to go to nursing school, you got to go to medical school because that's stable, right? I'm like, well, seeing all my uncles fail at all their businesses, I'm like, man, let me give this a try, right? Let me see if this can work, you know? Like, let me find some stability in the instability, some comfort in the uncomfortable, right? You know that phrase, like, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable types. That's like always been my mindset, right? Whether it's through CrossFit, through life. So for me, it's just more.
You're a CrossFit guy?
I used to, yeah. I used to try to intern for the seminar staff and, you know, teach the certification. So I was in CrossFit for a good bit.
Okay.
That was a big outlet for me when I was in college, just to find a competitive edge, you know. So you know, with fitness, we try to learn everything as much as we can just for a little bit, even if it's just for a bit. Like you went to Muay Thai and kickboxing, right? Like you're exploring stuff that's outside of your comfort zone. And more so, like, I think for you, it's just loving sport, right? Loving movement, human movement. That's part of what makes you a great trainer, because you actually understand not just, hey, a dumbbell and a barbell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, go play, get outdoors. Like, I remember when I was training with you for a bit, it was like, you know, get outdoors for a walk outside. You know, it wasn't just stick to a treadmill. So that's the beauty of it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that one in particular, I use the walk outside just because people are so stressed, and the walk outside is a way to de-stress on top of adding some more movement in. But like, most people are just so wrapped up in their life. You know, they're just in their life. They're just dealing with things that are coming at them and being so reactive. They never take a second to like chill out and reflect on what's going on. And that walk outside, that's why I write it like that. I say walk X amount, preferably outside, is because when you're outside, you're not walking and staring at your phone. You could do that on the treadmill, right? But when you're outside, you have to force yourself to just, you know, because you can't stare at your phone. You might get hit by a car or something like that. You know? So it gives you time to like reflect and think about your life and where it's going. And it gives you more time to de-stress.
Yeah.
You know, to, like,
see, that's why you're a good trainer. Like, you don't just say, hey, like, did you get your check-ins today with your cardio and just your fitness? You know, like, it's like, hey, like, let's mobilize, right? We talk about mobility here, bringing it back to mobility. You're like helping them mobilize their brain, you know, like their way of thinking, their way of processing stuff in life. And that's kind of cool, because that allows them to actually like grow, not just muscular wise, you know, mental wise.
Yeah.
So that's huge, you know?
I mean, I just think that a lot of it is people are just, they're too short-sighted. They think about, how do I get to what I want? Not how am I going to get to what I want and be able to maintain it?
Yeah.
And so a lot of that comes with, how are you creating this lifestyle where all of this works together to where you can continue doing it? And that's why I say there's not one way of losing fat that's the best, right? Like, most people don't like keto. They hate it, right? Everybody most people like carbs. You know?
Yeah, correct.
But if you happen to like it, then that's something that you would want to include in your lifestyle. I'm not going to say that keto is not beneficial, like it can't work, but for most people it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But if it's something that you enjoy, that you can fit in your lifestyle, then that's something that you should use.
Yeah.
And it's about building this lifestyle to where you're able to get to your results, but able to maintain it because you like what you're doing. It's just part of your life. Most people, like, they're either 100% focused on their goals or they're 100% focused on their life.
Oh, I like that.
And so it's like,
how do you get to balance though? How do you ever teach your clients how to be balanced?
Yeah. So like, those are the type of things that I tell them will pop up, right? Because like, when you're 100% focused on your goals, it's like, it's when people do, you know, like a bodybuilding show or a 90-day challenge or whatever it is, because you're like, this is the only thing I'm doing for 90 days. And it's like, well, yeah, man. I mean, if you do any diet for 90 days, you should lose some weight.
Yeah.
Right. But if immediately after that, you're like, okay, I'm going to go back to my regular life now.
It doesn't work that way.
Then you get all the results that you used to get, except now you've been starving for 90 days and then you go back to eating like shit and your hunger's through the roof and you start going crazy and then you start packing on the fat real fast. And so it's either that or people are 100% focused on their life and they're like, I'm not working out. I'm not doing anything for my diet. They dump on
their fitness.
Right. So it's the way that I designed my program is like, how do you understand when to do what, right? Because there is going to be life things that happen while you're in the program, right? And we can't avoid that because if you just try and bully your way through it and say, no, you can't do this ever, then it's not really a discussion. And then it becomes, at some point in your life, you could do that for a while if you're motivated enough, but at some point in your life, you're going to be like, dude, I'm not doing anything that I want to do. Like there's other things that mean something to me other than being in great shape.
Yeah.
And so if you end up hating it at some point, that means you're going to quit. And so it's like, all right, maybe it's not the best time in my diet right now to have a cheat meal, but maybe it's my wife's birthday, right? And if I don't eat with my wife on her birthday, she's probably gonna be fucking pissed, right? So that's not good for your life. Either you're gonna hate your diet and your lifestyle eventually, or she's gonna hate it and she's gonna make you hate it, right? And so it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll go out to eat with them, right? But how do I make good decisions? You know, just because I'm gonna go off diet doesn't mean, you know, let me eat this whole pizza and a tub of ice cream and some cheesecake,
Like
right?
you're calling me out.
Yeah. So it's like, maybe I just eat something that's like not that bad. And then maybe I do go crazy and I eat the whole pizza and I eat the cheesecake and I eat the ice cream and I'm like, fuck, dude, that was too much.
Yeah.
So how do you learn how to come back from that? You know, a lot of people don't know how to come back from that. They go, man, I really messed up my diet today. Let me go no carbs tomorrow. And then let me do an extra hour of cardio to like try and make up for it. And when you get in that mindset, like if you think about it, if you just broke on your diet and you cheated, you're not exactly in the best mental state to go the complete 180 the next day and say like, let me eat nothing. Let me do extra cardio, right? Because it's you're going from like an extremely high to like a very low. And that's when people, they do that. And then so the next day they're like not eating any carbs. They're doing extra cardio. They make it to like maybe 7 p.m. and they're like, fuck, I'm so hungry. And then they binge again. And then it's just this cycle where they keep doing it over and over. And that's where people will get fucked up because you're really aggressive on your diet 90% of the time, which feels like almost all of the time.
That is very true.
And then that 10%, you're going crazy, even if you think you're not going crazy, but you're like, you're eating some stuff that you shouldn't eat that it's pretty high in calories and you're ruining everything. And that's when people get frustrated because they're like, I'm dieting like, 6 days out of the week. And then that one day I go a little crazy and like nothing works. And then they're in that endless cycle of yo-yo dieting. And so it's just learning how to think through all of those decisions and decide whether it's important enough to you. Some people are like, well, it's my wife's birthday. Should I eat with her? I'm like, yes, you should eat with your wife on her birthday, right? Make good decisions. And then sometimes people are like, hey, the boys are going out this weekend to go get a beer. I'm like, how important is that? Like, how often do you guys do that? Like, well, we do it all the time. It's like, well, then it's not that important, right? You got to choose. Like,
get some soda water.
Is it your goals or is it, hanging out with the boys? What is actually important to you? And then just understanding how you make those decisions and how you prioritize the things that are important to you when they need to be important to you is what creates that lifestyle that gives you that long-term success. It's not just, 2,000 calories, eat it, tell me later, right? It's like you have to learn these things. And it's funny because people, they get scared during the program because they're like, oh, well, I'm only going to be in the program for this long. Like, I don't want to mess up while I'm in here. It's like, you should mess up now.
So I can teach you how to.
Exactly. Because I'm going to give you the best answer and the best thought process that I can give you.
For sure.
So that you can do it later. If you do the whole thing where you're like, I'm not going to ask for help to think about this decision. I'm just going to say no to everything all the time. At some point, you're going to hate that too. And then you're not going to know how to deal with it. And then we're not working together anymore, and then you fuck it up.
It sounds like a lot of your job is like mindful coaching, not just fitness coaching. It's like teaching them how to be mindful of like who they are in the space that they're at and be able to make good choices and decide, like you said, in making those choices. It's always just one decision away, right, from getting to your goal.
Well, I mean, to me, like, it's the least sexy part of the job, right? Like, I mean, I have to prove online that I can help you with like recipes and all that stuff. But it's really just, how do I make good decisions? And why am I making these decisions? Because once you can do that, you can figure it out. Right.
So like your clients, like, sorry to interrupt, but like you said a big word there, why, right? Do most people not know their why? Like, okay, cool. Like somebody comes in, hey, I just want to get ready for a show.
They don't know.
That's not their why though, right?
It's not.
So like, there's a bigger reason.
Well, the reason that I get on calls with people before they sign up is because, one, I have to know exactly what you're struggling with to know that I can help you, right? Because people can't get in shape for a lot of different reasons. You might be the person that has, 3 kids and you got Oreos in the cupboard and every time you walk by, you grab some. And you might be the person that just has a binge eating problem. Like you
that's me.
You drive to In-N-Out and get 3 double-doubles and 3 fries,
easy.
By yourself, And so it might be a problem of being more prepared. It might be a problem of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know what good foods are. What is a protein? Like, everybody has different problems. So you have to know what the problem is, but you also have to know why it's important to them. Because at some point, you're going to ask them to do something that they probably don't want to do, right? I might ask you to do 10 more minutes of cardio. I might ask you to take more food out of your diet, and you're going to be like, fuck, man, I don't want to do that, right? But if I don't know why it's important to you, or you don't know why it's important to you, how can you convince yourself to do something that you don't want to do? Because as soon as it gets hard, you're going to be like, no, I don't want to do that. And then you're just like, well, I'm gonna go eat this anyways. Right. So it's all about making good decisions and kind of layering in the habits and the decision making to where you have the knowledge and everything to do it on your own. Because I tell everybody on their initial call, right? Like, I don't plan on coaching anybody until the day they die, And I say that jokingly, but I really don't, right? Yeah. So that just means that if you want to maintain these results, you have to have the knowledge about nutrition and training and the healthy habits to be able to take it for the rest of your life. Because as soon as it's done, you have to know enough. And if I'm not teaching you anything, then you're going to have to stay with me forever, or else you lose your results. And that's not why I want you to stay. For sure. Like if you want to stay because you have more goals that you want to hit and there's more stuff that you want to do, or you just like working together, like that's fine. But I don't want you to stay because you need me because I'm holding stuff from you. Correct. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like the thing that we were talking about with the chiropractor. Like I'm not gonna not tell you that you need to do mobility work and get some body work and release the tight muscles and do the chiropractor because I want you to just keep coming forever so I can crack your back for 15 minutes every week. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah. But just going back to CrossFit, man, like what's your opinion on CrossFit now? I have an opinion. I'll tell you.
I mean, what true CrossFit, you go back to true constantly varied, movements, right? But it's not just like random movements, constantly varied, like with the understanding of balance, right? So, the guys over at headquarters, they have really good idea of how to do that. I think where it goes wrong, kind of like if you were to say, hey, this is the Bible, and you have different pastors speaking on it from different thoughts, right? It's kind of like that, right? CrossFit is that, and then you have different practitioners teaching it their way and their ability to process what these programs are. Then it could be bad, right? Not to say it's bad all across. There's great CrossFit gyms and great CrossFit boxes and instructors that I know of. But it just all depends on which hands it falls into. You know what I mean? So I can't, I still love it because I think a part of why I love it so much because I was so integrated into it. I met like Dave Castro, like he taught me so many different ways of the programming, and there's so many good instructors that I don't really have a lot of negative things to say from that aspect, right? But I've been to like certain boxes, or they'll call boxes the gyms, where like some instructors, like they'd rather squat or spot the hottest chick in the room with the shortest shorts, but fucking mom's over here trying to learn how to just squat for, at depth, and then she's blowing out her knees because she's not getting the attention that so if you're asking me that, like, yeah, I can call some motherfuckers out with that shit, right? So we can go there. Right? I got something to say about that, but like it all comes down to the care of the instructors and the care of the program, the thoughtfulness of the program, not just throwing a bunch of random shit into the mix, so mine's, again, going back to like very variable, I love it, and
yeah.
But let me hear yours. Yeah.
So
let me hear yours.
I mean,
talk your shit.
I'm not. First off, I'll just say I'm not super well versed in CrossFit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, take what I'm saying from my own experience of what I've seen. But from what I have seen, it's trying to incorporate a lot of Olympic lifting movements, and people do it for time. Which I think is the terrible part, because I mean, I understand why people love CrossFit. Like you're doing a lot of stuff, right? The workout's different every day, so you're super interested. Like, you're not like, oh, I'm, bodybuilding is monotonous, right? You're doing the same workouts for months, and you're just trying to get better at it. But like for CrossFit, it's like you're doing something new all the time. It's fancy. Like you never know what you're gonna do. And then on top of that, you're doing the workouts with people, right? Like you're doing it for the group aspect, which is what a lot of people miss.
The competitiveness of it.
Even, I mean, some people go for the competitiveness, and some people go because it's like hanging out with their friends. It's the only time that they go and just hang out with other people outside of their life, right? So I understand why people like it, but from a general perspective of what I've seen, like the Olympic lifting movements, right? Like Olympic lifting movements, we're talking like power cleans, hand cleans, like snatches, stuff like that, right? overhead squats.
Yeah.
Those are all very form and technique based movements.
Correct.
And so when you do it for time, I mean, the moms and the random people, they first of all do not have good form, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're just letting people come in the gym and they're like first day and they do a WOD, right? And then all of a sudden it's like do 12 power cleans with this weight as fast as you can, and then move on to doing this. It's like obviously people are gonna get hurt, right? Like because one, they might not be able to do an overhead squat. Not everybody has the shoulder mobility to do that. Or if you're doing a power clean, like I'm sure you've seen the videos of people doing like the ugly, like an upright row power clean looking weird thing. And it's like, yeah, you're probably going to blow out your low back, you know? And so like that aspect of CrossFit is like dumb. But I can fully understand that there definitely are people that are good at CrossFit and teaching CrossFit and have standards. But I think as a whole, most people do not.
And that's the scary part, right? Like you know, and that's the beauty of what CrossFit is turning into. Like I think more so like they're integrating all the high guys. I haven't followed it in a good bit. I've been kind of out of tune with it, but like I know that they want to kind of shape that up a little bit, where they go into the boxes and like really check on these, you know, like audits, right? Like you got to audit these gyms, franchises, whatever you want to call them, to make sure they're actually like telling people to scale. So scaling means like, hey, if the workout calls for 135 power clean, you know, you could say, hey, the bar is okay today. You know, like if you're a little stressed and you sat at your desk for 10 hours, like the bar is okay today, right? But that's again both egos, right? The ego of the person that's doing the clean and jerk and the ego of the coach, right? You know, to say, hey, like, just chill, you know, like just do the bar today, you'll be fine. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So I think we more or less agree.
Agree. Yeah, for sure. I would say, you know, it comes down to the scalability of it and then the instruction.
Yeah.
But I would love to take you to a good CrossFit boxes of good instructors.
I'll try it.
That I think like you would just enjoy how they deliver, you know, and the points of performance. That's all it is, right? Teaching you like the points of performance that you can better understand. A lot of it's just the words, you know, like that you can't, if you tell the lady, hey, squat, you know, somebody's going to squat 100 different ways, you know? So like you got to give them kind of like points of performance that they can take. So I can take you to a good box, and I can take you to some shitty ones too. Yeah.
I think I'll pass on the shitty ones.
Well, it's good to have both ranges to kind of see like what to compare it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because that's what we were talking about earlier before we started this episode. But, you know, we're talking like most people don't know whether they're doing something that's good or bad because they only have one frame of reference, right? Like if you've only ever done something one way, you don't know how good it is or how bad it is. Yeah. And like you could say that for dieting or bodybuilding or business or relationships, right? Like from a fitness aspect, if you lost weight one time, that doesn't mean it's great. Yeah. Right. You could lose 10 pounds doing some stupid detox, but you didn't eat food for a week.
But you lost muscle. Yeah.
But you didn't eat food for a week. So like, that's dumb. Is that good? No. Just because it quote unquote worked doesn't mean it's good. Yeah. Right. But if that's the only thing that you've ever done, you're automatically inclined to think that it's good because that's the only thing that you have to think of. For sure. Until you see other points of view or like other things. And so something that, one of my friends and I were talking about, where it's like every time we competed and dieted down for a show, you learn something new every time. So thinking that you know how to diet and you know how to compete and all that stuff, and you just got it covered after your first or second or even third show, like it's not like that, right?
But you're pretty intuitive about that though, because I treat a lot of bodybuilders that I don't think they learn about themselves, right? Yeah. You know, you got to be very in tune and self-aware of that. Like, hey, this show, I might be like more stressed with this or less stressed with this, or I might bloat up or lose water, you know, like all those little minor details. But I think like because you have to be a little bit more in tune, like how did you get to there? Not to take you away from the topic, but like how did you get there to be like, oh shoot, like this prep's going to be a little different because I'm 30 versus, you know what I mean?
Well, it's not really like you go into it thinking like, oh, it's going to be different because of this or this, unless you have some major life change, like you change jobs or you live in a different place or whatever. But it's more so, it's just, no prep is the same, right? Like you don't use the same diet every time you do it. You don't do the same amount of cardio. You don't make the adjustments at the same time. Like your body's always changing. You know, your digestion reacts different. Like you have more muscle, maybe you have less muscle, unfortunately. You know, maybe the timing is different. maybe you don't train as hard because you lost your training partners. And so every time you learn something different, like how do I challenge myself a little bit more? How do I keep myself motivated? How do I focus more on the things that I want to do? Or how do I visualize better to keep my head in the game, right? So like there's all these different things that you could learn, and maybe you tried different tricks. Like you went low fat and high carb. Maybe you went low carb and high fat. Maybe you peaked this way, like, so there's so many different things that you could learn along the way, both about nutrition, about training, and about yourself, and like why you're doing whatever you're doing, and how to keep your mind invested. Because bodybuilding, it's difficult because it is 24/7, like 365, right? You don't get like days off, right? Because even when you're not training, you might have to get your steps in, you might have to do cardio, you always have to prep your food, everything has to be dialed in if you want to be the best. So it's like this really boring, monotonous, shitty, it's like shitty dull pain, you know what I mean? Like sometimes getting
it's always
punched
there.
I mean, yeah, like sometimes getting punched in the face, it sucks, right? But 10 minutes later you probably don't know. Right?
Correct.
But if you have like this dull lower back pain that's always there, you're like, man, this sucks. This is horrible.
How you're gonna wake up, all that stuff.
But eventually your mind is like, it wants to give up, because you're like, this is hard, this sucks, this sucks. And so when you have that dull thing like longer and longer, it's more about how do I keep myself or my head in the game and my mind invested in this when it's boring and it's no fun.
So I mean, taking that, like, let's talk about scalability, right? Taking that mindset, how do you give some of that to your clients who's just doing like a 12-week, 16-week fat loss program, right? To teach all that all uncompacted, right? That's like your clean and jerk. How do you scale it down to somebody that's like, what are some of your clients come in and like, oh, I want to lose weight, man. Like, but really like, yo, chill. What's going on in your life? Why do you want to lose weight?
I mean, sometimes it turns into that. Sometimes people, I mean, it depends, right? Like not everyone is super talkative, right? I can't like drag information out of you.
Got it,
I'm not going to like bother you every day until you tell me like your deepest, darkest secrets. But it'll come out eventually. And I always tell everyone, like, the people that communicate the most are typically the most successful. Just because if we're communicating, you're probably not texting me because you're telling me that it's sunny outside. You're saying like, okay, like I felt like this after this meal, or this meal schedule doesn't work for me in my schedule. Maybe we need to adjust something, or maybe I feel bloated. Maybe I'm super stressed out. Like you're giving me more feedback to make better decisions and have more information about the big picture on how your body's responding to everything. And then we kind of go from there. But to be able to coach people, the coaching people it's not, here's 2,000 calories and work out 4 days a week and do 20 minutes of cardio, right? It's like, how do I get you to do the things that you need to do and build you up, right? Because it's all about, to me, it's about building people's confidence. And like obviously confidence in their body, but that self-belief that you're going to be able to do it, because
on your own,
just in general, right? Because if you're on a call with me looking to sign up, right, you have probably failed at doing this a bunch of times. Because if you could do it by yourself, you would have done it by yourself already, right? You wouldn't go out, you wouldn't go looking to pay for someone, right? Unless you're used to paying people for things like that, So if you've already failed a lot of times, then me giving you something that is so hard for you that it's not realistic for you to be successful in the first week, that kills your confidence, right? Because then you're like, all right, well, I wanted to lose weight. I paid this guy. He gave me a plan. I know he knows what he's doing, but I couldn't do it still. And then now you're feeling more defeated, right? So it's about layering in things like to take, like you were saying with bodywork, right? Like you take that first step to getting to the next level, and then another step. So it's about building people up and building that self-confidence that you are going to be able to do this, or that you can achieve this. And it's more about that. And so when I'm coaching people, it's trying to figure out like, where are you now? What's the next step that we need to take for you to learn the things that you need to learn? Like maybe it's learning how to be more forward thinking. I like that. And just prepping, like going to the grocery store and prepping ahead of time. Like there's some people that that's like the first thing you need to learn. And then there's other people that are just like, how do I stay motivated? Like, so you got to figure out like, where is each individual person? And then how are we going to take that next step forward? And so the program, like you commit to a certain amount of time in the beginning, because, you just need to have that commitment. Like
just to start.
But like mentally you need that commitment just as much as I want you to be committed, right? Like I can't do that much for you in a month. It's like, but if you're committing to 6 months, right, you know that you're committed, you're mentally locked in, like I'm doing this for 6 months. And then now we can work from there because you have the expectation that I am going to be working for 6 months. This isn't going to happen overnight.
Correct.
And so from there, it's like, we're going to get as far as we can get, right? Like I'm not sandbagging or holding back, but like if I can tell when someone's going to break,
really?
You do this, you do this enough times.
What's the read on that? What is that? So your listeners that do want to join your program, like, so they can catch it themselves, or your current, athletes can be like, man, maybe I need to talk to him now. Now is the point, like I should speak up so I don't fall off. Like what are some of those reads that you had on those people that did like almost?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it is like everyone has their own communication style.
Yeah.
Right. You can tell when someone's excited. You can tell when someone's like doing really well. And then you can tell when someone is becoming more unsure of themselves or more disheartened, right? Because they're talking like the way they change talks, like even if it's just over text, like their tone of their overall the overall conversation is different. They go from being like, yeah, like I did this, I did that, like I'm doing this, like, I lost a pound this week and it's awesome. And then they're like, oh, well, had a really hard time this week, and the scale was pretty up and down. Yeah. And I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like I'm still going, but so you can hear those things, and then sometimes they'll throw in a little something like, oh man, like I just don't know how long this is gonna last, or like how am I gonna keep doing this, or like I'm feeling really discouraged right now, like whatever it is. And so you got to know when to push and pull, right? Because I'm giving you the directions, but I have to know when you're about to quit and when you're not, right? Because you
can't take the direction to go anywhere with it.
Well, not everyone can be spoken to by a drill sergeant, right? Like I can yell at some people, and then some people I have to,
be soft landing,
and like give them that positive reinforcement, because fitness is different in that it's super emotional, right? Yeah. Because it's how you look. Right, how you feel about how you look. The vulnerability of that. As much as people like to think they're hard and like I can take tough love. Yeah. If I said, hey, you look like shit right now, like that's not gonna fly with everybody, no matter how hard you think you are. Sure. And so it's just understanding people and just taking the personal approach. And it's like some people, they're fine with just saying like, here's your meal plan, do this. That works for a certain type of person. Okay. And so like if you're a bodybuilder, like that better be you. Because like you got to do whatever the fuck you're supposed to do. Yeah. No questions asked. You can. Yeah. But like you can't just be like, no, I'm gonna get a cheat meal this week. You know, like if
start bending the rules on your own type.
Yeah. Or if like you're asking for cheat meals when you're not supposed to get them, like you're not made for this. Yeah. Or maybe it's not ready for you right now. But like as someone who coaches, a lot of just normal everyday people that want to lose weight, like you kind of have to understand people and like when you can push them and how you can talk to certain people. And that's partially also why like I have that call with them before they sign up. Like you don't just go to a website and pay and then like I'm like, hey, you're my client now. Yeah. Like
have you ever like had a call with somebody, they fronted one way and then throughout the whole journey you're like, whoa, like
oh yeah. I mean people do that all the time. Like it's hard to weed people out sometimes, because sometimes they say it and they really mean it. Like they really mean I'm gonna do whatever. I'm motivated. I'm this. I'm that. But the problem is that the motivation wasn't strong enough, or
the why wasn't strong enough.
Yeah, or life gets in the way. Yeah. Like sometimes shit really happens, right? And like I totally understand. Yeah. It's like like sometimes people got to pause their program or whatever. But yeah, I mean it's just like yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot you carry, man. This is.
Yeah, well, I always used to joke that like the job is like 70% being a therapist, and then 30% like me just telling you like do this workout, do this and do this and this.
Yeah, because you gotta help them like corral them, do the right, stay on task. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool though.
So it's tough because like sometimes like I don't want to say like everyone's draining, but like you're taking everyone's problems and trying to give them a solution, and a good amount of time it's a lot of negative energy that people are giving you because it's hard or they're sad or stuff's going on in their life, and like you have to be the person that's like, no, you could do this, or give them like the more upbeat solution. Yeah. And I'll just be like, dude, just fucking do it.
Yeah, shake up, let's go wake up.
I mean, sometimes you want to do that, but like that doesn't work. You can't be doing that.
I mean, fine line of balance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's just how I like to coach. You know,
That's
not,
good. I
not
like that.
everybody likes that.
I like
you know?
that.
But
Yeah.
I feel like it's the most fulfilling for me because those are the people that it will mean the most to them. Because I know what it's like to be fat, you know, and then like not happy. Like, like when you have your boxers, right?
Yeah.
And you got love handles.
Yeah.
And you feel your boxers like flip over in the back.
Oh, it's
And
worse.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Or, like the boxer band, it puts an imprint on your love handle.
Yeah.
And you're like,
you're still wearing the boxers when
like,
you take them off.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck, I'm fat. Or the first time you bend over to tie your shoe and you feel your chest, your stomach's like all up in your chest, and you're like, holy shit, like, this is not good, right? So I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be unhappy with how you look. And so at the time, like I knew that I was disheartened. I didn't have a lot of self-belief, and so I also know what it's like to get on the other side, and I tell everyone it's like the oh shit moment, you know?
Oh, nice.
So it's like,
So tell me, your oh shit moment.
yeah. So my oh shit moment was when I was in college. I tried to get in shape on my own for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I did like all the stupid fad diets and all that shit, and I would quit, and nothing worked for me because I wasn't giving it enough time, and I just didn't know how to apply it. So I hired a coach. I ended up becoming one of my best friends, right? One of my groomsmen, but I still struggled even then, just like staying on track with my program, right? Like,
And were you a pro already?
no,
Not yet.
No, I was just some college rugby player.
Okay, cool,
that was
cool.
fat, right? And so he was coaching me. I would fall off and this and that, and then eventually I like finally got my shit together. And the oh shit moment is when one day you wake up and you look in the mirror and you finally say, oh shit, I look pretty good.
Oh.
And when you say, oh shit, I look pretty good, it's a million times different than when anybody else says you look pretty good.
I like that.
Because, people will tell you, like, you lose a little bit of weight, they're like, oh, your face looks a little bit leaner. And you're like, oh yeah, it's a little bit leaner, thanks, but I'm still not happy with the way I look. So even though that compliment's nice, you're like, but I'm not where I want to be at. So I'm like, it might be a nice little ego stroke, but I'm still like, I'm not happy with this. So the day that you wake up for the first time and you're like, holy shit, I look good. You're like, I got a six pack, or I got whatever, maybe you're a girl, you're like, I got a small waist and a fat ass or something like that. The first day that you wake up and feel it, you're like, wow, dude, my life has changed.
That's
like,
cool.
Because
like
it creates that.
And that could be in any aspect of your life, not just fitness, right?
Yeah.
It could be like your career, your marriage, your...
I just like fitness as the gateway to the self-belief, because fitness is one of the only things that you get an almost immediate feedback.
How so?
Right? Like, if I diet for a month, I will lose weight and I will look better. But you might work on a business for a year and nothing happens, right? You might say, I've been working on myself and going to therapy. There's no tangible result.
Correct.
Right? You might say, I'm going to go, I don't know, like learn a skill or something like that. And it's not like that. You don't get the results like that. But in fitness, it's close to immediate, right? Like, I diet for 3 months, sounds like a long time. But if I lose 15 pounds, that could be a large percentage of my total body weight, right? And that could be a lot. And so the results are quick. And so it gives you this feedback loop of, if I stay on my diet and I train and I lose weight, I look better. It's immediate. Versus sometimes you do something like business and you're like, if I do all of the right things, it still might not happen right now. And it might be
external
2, 3, 4 years before I hit that peak where everything just goes way better and I get my results. So I like fitness as the aspect to create that self-confidence that if I put in the work, I will get this result. It's my results are a direct reflection of what I'm doing and my effort. And then if you can take that and that self-belief and say like, oh, I can put it somewhere else, it just becomes more about how long am I willing to wait and do this work before I can see the results. Because the longer I'm willing to wait, usually the bigger the payoff is. And so it's kind of just like that. It's like the gateway drug.
I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna apply that to my life. I just gotta get consistent first, man. Yeah. Consistency. I'm the biggest yo-yo dieter, man. I'm the creator of yo-yo dieting. Well, that's cool though, man.
Yeah, man. So kind of like a last thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe not a last thing, but you work with a lot of professional athletes in different sports. some people that I was like, how do you even know that guy?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if you're willing to say like who you work with and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, how did you get into that?
Right? So back in 2017, when I started my business, luckily my wife pushed me to jump the ship. Like, hey, start your own stuff. I met this gentleman. His name is Kayvon Webster. That time he left Denver Broncos, won the Super Bowl there, came to the Los Angeles Rams, and gracefully enough, he kind of like took me in as a full-time strength coach. That's where I met Robert Torres.
So this was as a strength coach, or
I was coming in as a strength coach. Yeah,
okay.
So I was coming in as a strength coach. Robert Torres was his massage therapist. Robert at the time has worked with so many names of like Antonio Brown. There's so many other good athletes. So like, in Pokemon, Ash Ketchum had his who was his rival when he first started? Not Gary. Gary?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know.
Oh man, all right. I thought you watched anime.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know.
So yeah, Ash Ketchum had this little person that was like always making him better, right? So Robert Torres was that for me. And then over time, Kayvon introduced me to people, and then when you're in that sports industry, you start meeting all kinds of athletes, celebrities, artists, and then Robert, as Robert grew in his career, he and I got closer. More so down the line, and he kind of just gracefully like took me under his wings and taught me like, the massage therapy world, what that was like, what soft tissue meant, deep tissue meant, what sports therapy meant, and he's a big voice for the community right now. So, shout out to Robert Torres. I put you in touch. Hopefully you guys can get on a call together.
Did you?
Yeah. He's the LA Rams. He does the LA Rams, LA Chargers.
Oh,
so, yeah, that guy.
Okay.
So I know he'd be a great person to like kind of share thoughts and dive deep into all that stuff. But again, Kayvon Webster, Robert Torres, that era was like such a beautiful era that helped me like grow into the person that I am. And I'm still growing. I'm still learning from all of my clients and athletes. So yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just started hanging out with all these famous people.
I mean, you're famous. I'm
definitely not famous.
Yeah. I mean, the term famous and all that stuff like is tough. Like, I think at the end of the day, what I've learned in my journey is everybody's everybody, like everybody has something to bring to the table. So like, just because you have X amount of dollars to your name, or like you're A-lister, B-lister, C-lister, like, it's what do you bring to the table personally, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm more so into searching for, with my relationships with people, my clients. What can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? And how can we help each other grow? So, well, yeah, I mean, like famous, I guess, because people know who they are, but it's just like, they're more than just their movies they made or the sports they play in, like it's just what they bring to the table, their heart, their wisdom, their knowledge. And, I learned from the 87-year-old grandma that's trying to be fit to play with her grandkids just as much as I learned from the guy that's like a super celeb, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or like a superstar athlete, or, a super singer, whatever. Yeah.
So that's interesting, mm-hmm. right? Like, how did you not get caught up in all the Hollywood?
Oh, I did. I did. Yeah, man. Like, to say that I didn't, like, a part of my ego, like, kind of went with that, right? And I could have lost a lot of friendships. I could have destroyed my marriage. I could have
big time.
Yeah. Not just in that world of like celebs or anything. It's just like my own ego of getting caught up. Like, man, I gotta chase the money now, right? I gotta fucking buy this car now. I gotta buy this clothes just to look a certain way. It's not even them, right? It's just internally. Like, I was feeling like I was lacking to this and that, or a lifestyle. I got to build this house. But then I realized it's not about that, right? When some of these like, superstar athletes, they start teaching you like, it's not always about the money, it's about how you treat people and how you come to the table seeing, what do you bring to the table? It has to be better, more than just a dollar sign, then it humbled me a lot. So it humbled me to be like, yo, like, we're all humans. We're all just trying to, this one trainer, Brian Nguyen, he trained like Wahlberg, Kate Hudson. He's told me, he's like, we're just humans, having experience. Man, he needs to come on this podcast to explain that part. But, it's like, we're just having this human experience. We're just beings having this human experience, not, the other way around.
Yeah.
So, once I started changing my mindset into that, it's like, cool, what can I learn from you or whoever I run into? And that changed everything, right? That's that's the fame I want now, right? How can we share this together, this experience together? How can we share life together so I can become the best version of myself so I can pass that on to my kids, right? Or the next therapist that's like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess I mean, like, how did you not get caught up in the whole Hollywood, I'm hanging out with, celebrities or NFL players?
after a while, I just didn't care about it because like I came home to like my wife and kids,
Did you at first though? Like, were you like the first time you're hanging out with, maybe some NFL players or like a movie star? Are you like, oh my God, starstruck?
No, not necessarily starstruck. Just more excited, right? The excitement of like, man, this is where my career is going. Hopefully, it's gonna get bigger than this, right? The excitement is more like, where is this gonna look like for 5, 10 years? I wasn't really present, right? Which looking back, I wish I was way more present. I had to do a lot of healing from that. Like, there was a lot of emotional, from 2017 to current, like a lot of emotional breakthroughs when I had to happen when like some of my players, which became my friends, my brothers, they got cut, you know what I mean? And I'm like, whoa, like it jaded the whole thing for me. You know what I mean? It jaded what business looked like. So then I realized they were just humans, right? They were just trying to build a career, get a job, feed their family. Then you started getting this human connection, this emotional connection. And that's what brought me back. Understanding like, hey man, these people feel just as much as we do, right? They're not just their dollar amount. They're not just their status, So that's what brought me back. And then of course my family, my wife and kids, like they helped me reframe my mindset a lot because I came home to like, just the simple things in life, hanging out with them, making memories and sharing this with the people you actually love. That's what brought me back. So yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. So
I know a lot of people would get caught up saying like, oh, I'm hanging out with this dude.
I give two fucks, man. I really give two fucks. I think to me, like I rather like see the 87-year-old grandma that knows how her fucking 30-year, 40, 50 years of marriage worked out, or like what it feels to be a grandma, you know what I mean? Or like her stories and her life lessons, you know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds cheesy as fuck, but it's just like, that's where my mindset's right now in my life. So like my life lesson, if I can pass it to like any therapist, is like, let's just stop like chasing this Instagram life and this like, I'm the better than this. It's just like, hey, come back, like chill. Like people are here. When you're touching people, you're giving people your energy. Yeah. Right. And they're receiving your energy, etc. So I learned that, hey, you got to check your energy, right? There's sometimes like I bring bad energy in and I'm like, I forget that, where there's life problems, financial problems, whatever, internal like ego problems. Like my clients feel that's not fair to them. So when you're out there like fucking holding your fucking phone, recording while you're doing that, nothing against that. I don't want to bash against that, but it's like, dude, you're taking away from the experience of that person. You know what I mean? Like whatever they're taking. I'm not saying I'm perfect from it. Like I'm working through that. Everybody should work through it. But like these people want to feel the connection is more than just healing, So yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm still learning though, you know what I mean? So it's a lot. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, I guess to wrap this up, I guess my questions for you is like, your experience with body work outside from the yelling and screaming and feeling actually a little bit looser, like what does it do for you? Like what does manual therapy what has it done for you? Whether it was me or some other massage therapist or physical therapist that you had, like how has it improved your life and how is that going to help your clients?
Well, I mean, for me personally, like I feel like my recovery is just not that great for, I don't know, like it's just the way it is. Yeah. Right. So just being able to get things loosened up and properly aligned, it just saves me from more pain, right? Because, when you have more imbalances, then you're at more risk for injury the longer it goes on. Yeah. And so it kept me in the game the whole time. I've never had like a crazy injury. Other than like spraining my ankle and breaking my collarbone, but those are different. That's when I was young. So it just keeps me a little bit more mobile. I mean, sometimes it still sucks, but my body hurts now, but I can't imagine how bad it would hurt if I didn't get any body work.
Just a little bit inkling of it.
Yeah. And then also it's just another way of thinking, right? Like when you're thinking about building muscle, you're not like, how does this all work together? And then different planes of motion and like external rotation. Like sometimes you think about that, but like more often than not, you start thinking about like external, internal rotation when you're I mean, if you're being athletic or if someone's telling you this because you're getting body work done. So like, I ask a lot of questions when I'm getting body work.
Yeah,
sometimes.
you do.
You know,
it's
I'm
good
like,
though.
Yeah, it's because I'm like, what is this? What am I feeling? Because if what people don't really think about is like, if you don't know what you're feeling, then you're never gonna know how to fix it, and you can't ever identify it again, right?
Like that.
And so it's like same thing when you're training, right? If you don't know what your lat feels like, I can't tell you, engage your lat, because you're like, I have no idea what that is. Like I'm just flexing everything. You know? And so like for body work, it just taught me more about like how my body moves, like where things are supposed to go. It's stuff that I never really thought about, because to me as a bodybuilder, it was like, how do I grow my delts? How do I grow my chest? Like not my arm should be able to do this. If I lay on the table, if I stick my arm above my head, it should lay flat on the table. And if it doesn't, then I have imbalances, right? Like that's not something that I would have just learned on my own. I wouldn't have went out of my way to go learn that. So just learning those things, and then it helps because I'm obviously not an expert in that field, but when I watch when I watch my clients like training videos, when they send it to me, I can say like, hey, it looks like, your hips are a little bit off. Maybe your shoulders are like super internally rotated, something like that, because I can identify it, because I had that problem. I don't have all the solutions for it because it's not my area of expertise. So I always try and tell them like, maybe let's find somebody that could do body work, but they got to be good at like, they gotta be good. Don't go to Massage Envy thinking that they're gonna go fix you, because they're just gonna like rub your back. So yeah, I feel like it helps in that aspect too. I'm like, I'm not a bodywork specialist, so I can't like fix people.
Correct.
You know what I mean? But I can at least say like, you're probably misaligned here. That's why we're having these problems. Maybe we can try and do this or this and help open it up. And then if you can find a bodywork person that's good, then that would be the most beneficial for you.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
See, it's just teamwork, man. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not like, my expertise is in building muscle and losing fat and like getting people to do it, right? And it's not like, I'm not going to tell you that I'm I'm not going to program a strength program, because that's not my thing. I'm not going to program a powerlifting program. I'm not going to do like like a football's functional workout, right? Like
we're definitely going to get some of those people on this podcast for sure.
But I mean, like, you stay in your lane, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just like the more that you know, the more you're like, well, if I know all of this about what I know, I probably know absolutely nothing about other worlds or like other aspects, right? Because like, sure, I played football, I played rugby, I know like certain drills and stuff like that, but like, do I really know what I should know to be coaching people like that, to do something like that? Like, no, probably not. Like you should go somewhere else, right?
I like that.
Or like, if you're trying to run a marathon, like, I'm definitely not that guy. I'm just gonna be like, I don't know, dude, run some more. You know what I mean? So, it's just like, stick with what you're good at, and just be able to admit that you're not that good at certain things.
See, the admitting part is the beauty of actually being a lion heart. Having a lion heart is just knowing that what you're good at. Yeah. 'Cause that's when you have that full confidence to just be who you are. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, being lighthearted is just, having that mindset where I'm going to be my best self. I'm going to be, it's like, it's just being like lighthearted is like a symbol for like nobility and like, I'm like drawing a blank, but basically it's like being that best version of yourself, taking control of your life. Yeah. And then also, like, to me, it's like, you're being that king of your own jungle, right? Ooh, like you're in control of your life, because you're doing what you need to do to.
What if I'm Simba, bro? What if I'm Simba?
I mean, you still have to like. Yeah. You might be Simba to somebody else, but you have to be the king of your own jungle.
Wow.
Because
I like that.
If you're not the king of your own jungle, right? Like, you're not in control of your own life. Yeah. Then who's in control of your life?
That's true.
So
that's true.
Doing all these things to create that mindset of, I'm in control. I'm secure with myself. I'm pushing to be the best version of myself. Yeah. I'm a symbol of strength, nobility. I have like, I hold myself in a very high regard. You get those things by doing the things that you're supposed to do. And when you do the things that you're supposed to do, it gives you the confidence, like, I am who I say I am, because every time I say I'm something, I do I do the things that person would do. I like that. And it creates that feeling of like, I am in control of my life. I'm the king of my own world. Like Andrew Tate, he calls himself Top G, right? But everybody should be their own Top G, that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. Like, I shouldn't be the king of your jungle. You shouldn't be the king of mine, and all those, in any scenario, right? Yeah. Like, nobody else should be the pinnacle of what you think life should be other than you.
Okay. I like that, man.
Yeah.
Now you have the full definition of lighthearted. Yeah. Yeah. Well, one day I'm be king of my jungle.
You are, man. You are.
Yeah.
There's just stuff that you're always gonna have to work on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, where can the people find you?
Well, right now I'm at AJ's house, so the address is, I'm just kidding. Ant.cave is the Instagram that I'm not pretty active with my marketing. So, I mean, you can check the little bubbles up top if you want to see my work. But, yeah, ant.cave, and or just hit up AJ and AJ can hit me up and we'll figure out if you're the right fit for me.
Yeah. So where's your working, range? Like where do you...
So I'm around Orange County, LA. So I kind of travel a lot for work and then, based out in Long Beach, California. But yeah, I travel anywhere.
Okay. Do you have a website or something?
I do not. No.
Right. Okay,
yeah.
so you gotta go to his
unconventional.
Instagram. Gotta go to his Instagram.
Yeah, or just find me. Yellow pages.
Cool, man. Any last words?
Yeah. Huh?
Any last words?
No last words, but like, thank you for having me on this podcast. Thanks for all your listeners for tuning in. I appreciate the space to be able to share and also learn from you. And hopefully we get to do this more or bring on cooler people in my network, so like I want to share with my people with you and maybe you can ask them the questions so you guys can help grow together and we all can become lighthearted.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Like the show, share the show. If you're going to give it a review, give it 5 stars. If you're not, then don't do it.
Yeah.
But I'll see you guys later.